Hey up. So after quite a few diversions from the usual hard gore fare, we are heading back into more familiar territory. We're finishing off a series that we started back in Tier 1. We're looking at the last official and last original entry in the Faces of Death series. So of course, Faces of Death 4 from 1990. This is again directed by John Alan Schwartz, but this time going under the pseudonym Conan Le Solaire. For some reason, no idea why. Michael Carr does not reappear in this as Dr. Gross, and I wonder how much that's going to affect this one, to be completely honest. So yeah, part 4, here we are. I mean, by part 2, in fact, this Mondo Shock Doc series was already kind of losing its steam, in my opinion. And yeah, without Dr. Gross on top of it, I don't know, I'm not particularly optimistic about this one, let's say. Instead we get James Schwartz filling in as the narrator and guide for this film. He's obviously the brother of the director, but I mean, that's some pretty big boots to fill, as Michael Carr was a staple of the first 3, I'd say. So again, another one I've not seen. I don't know how much of this is fake, how much of this is just horrible real stuff. No idea whatsoever. And I will say as well before we start, as with the other 3 reviews, YouTube's not a fan of these films, so the clips in this might be a little scarce or just a little uninteresting. I can't really show you all the interesting stuff, because the interesting stuff is the stuff that will get me banned off YouTube. So there you go, expect a few less clips. But anyway, let's stop stalling and let's just crack on with this, shall we?
Hello, my name is Dr. Louis Flellis. I'm a neurosurgeon. It would seem the guidance system for this Trident missile could use a little guidance of its own.
I just don't understand it. We don't know what's happened yet. Back there? We don't know. We don't know. I don't know anything until I can assure you there'll be a full investigation about this. This is the first time this has ever happened.
This one pretty much just carries on exactly like the rest of the Faces of Death films do. There's not much of a difference, really. The biggest difference probably being Dr. Louis Flellis as our new host. Canonically, Dr. Gross is dead in the Faces of Death universe now. For those who care, I don't know. In this instalment, we get plane crashes, cave-ins, bungee accidents, magic acts gone wrong, and one massive leech. That's just to name a few things that happen in this one. All being led along, narrated over by Dr. Flellis, who gives us his opinion every now and again, and every now and again we cut into him for a little live action skit that's kind of half funny sometimes. Yeah, it's, I complained in Faces of Death 2 that the sections were a little too rapid, a little too quick. And I complained in Faces of Death 3 that they went on for far too long. Well, in this one, it kind of gets the balance right. There are a few where it sort of churns through them, but then it slows itself down and explores a few ideas a little bit more. And the pacing's not too bad. A big problem, though, is that every time we do slow down to look at an idea, the longer that we're with it for, the faker it is, generally. The more there's like talking heads and things like that, you know it's getting into real fake territory, so that's a bit of a shame. And Dr. Gross's narration is sort of drier sense of humour, his weird quotes, they are missed in this one. Flellis, I don't know, he didn't really leave me wanting more of him, if that makes sense, whereas Dr. Gross was a bit of a fun character to stick around with. So yeah, I'd say that it's better than Faces of Death 3, but I'd say it's not as good as Faces of Death 2, and what really pushes Faces of Death 2 above 4 is it's only 75 minutes long, whereas Faces of Death 4 is 90 minutes, and yeah, again, you just get sort of sick of what you're watching because it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And it sort of loses its shock value after the first half an hour of just seeing dead bodies and horrible things happening to people. So yeah, not the worst though. The acting isn't great in this one, and I'm talking specifically about the acting here. So Dr. Flellis, he keeps bug-eyeing the camera a lot of the time, and yeah, I don't know, his delivery didn't really fit as well as Dr. Gross's did. And then in the more fake sections, they're very obviously fake, because the acting is pretty appalling a lot of the time. Some of the talking heads are just ridiculous with how bad the acting is. The gore seems to have took a little step up, I'd say. There are some scenes that just sort of worked with the gore and looked relatively effective. I'm thinking the car on the leg scene, that worked pretty well, and the beginning bit in the asylum. But then, to counterbalance that, we do get a lot of sections where the gore just looks absolutely terrible. I'm specifically thinking of the quartering section. That just looked awful, really, really bad. And there's a few other bits as well where, yeah, it's mixed. It's a mixed bag. Then on the real side of things, yeah, we get some difficult shots, some difficult bits to look at. It's mostly just like, you know, there's a lot of corpses in this, a lot of after the fact things. If it's a shot of just a corpse that's already dead, more than likely it's real. I think a lot of it was shot in a morgue as well, or a crematorium, because there's a lot of cremation sections as well. There's things like war crimes and war footage, the historical stuff that's never fun to watch because you know it's not faked. And then there's like an AIDS baby at the end, which is just, yeah, it's just sad. But then you counterbalance that with some really fake acting, or Dr. Flellis doing something a bit silly. And it does what the others do, where you suddenly start laughing, and then you're like, now I feel a bit weird because I'm laughing. Should I be laughing at this? I'm not fully sure. Yeah, it evokes the same emotion, I'd say, as the other ones do. So I guess validity of the real and the fake, I guess, as well. I'd say it's probably about 50-50, probably leaning more into the fake. As I said, the bigger sections are usually the fake ones. If we see somebody doing something and then die, it's fake. Whereas if we just see a quick shot after the fact, or something that looks historical, big crowds, more often than not, it's some sort of like stock footagey sort of thing, or some sort of like news footage, or like royalty-free stuff. That you can get away with just sort of cramming in there, and that, yeah, they're usually real. And every time I do one of these, I get comments where it's like, well, it's all fake, it's all fake. The longer sections are, but a lot of this film is quite quick cuts of news footage, or like police footage, or stuff like that, like war footage and stuff, and those are real. A lot of it, and like the quick shots to the corpses and that, yeah, there's realness in that. Sure, there's fakeness, but there's realness. You're not faking a plane crash for Faces of Death 4, are you? I mean, come on, where's the budget for that coming from? So yeah, I'd say it's about 50-50 this one, with the fake and the real. But yeah, so I think let's finish this off with something fun. The music to this film is, well, the score is maddening because it's quite repetitive and it plays over and over and over again, and yeah, it gets a bit annoying. But this is the film where the Faces of Death song that I mentioned, I can't remember if it was in 2 or 3, but the Faces of Death song plays in this one, and it is in this one because apparently Dr. Flellis, or what was his name, James Schwartz, he is the writer, and he sings the song as Dr. Flellis, so it's his song that he wrote about it, and it plays over the credits. And honestly, this film gets a little extra tick just for having this song in it over its credits. It's pretty fun.
But the death of those musicians inspired me to resume playing the piano, which I hadn't done since I was a small boy. But I knew the music had to go on. This song that I wrote is dedicated to those musicians.
You only find faces of death, faces of death, faces of death all around you. Faces of death, faces of death, faces of death all around you.
So as soon as we're wrapping up this Faces of Death series, I thought now would be a good time to do just a little comprehensive history of the films and some of the stuff that we've not directly discussed, adding that in and making a little timeline of it all. So, Faces of Death 1 to 3, we've already discussed those, they came out. After those, we got a compilation film called The Worst of Faces of Death, again directed by John Alan Schwartz, and this is a compilation of Faces of Death 1 to 3. The idea being they get in all of the most extreme bits and push it out there, and this time it had James Schwartz in it. Again, Michael Carr wasn't involved. And this sort of served as a bit of advertising for Faces of Death Part 4. Both coming out in the same year, 1990, they both came out. Well, Worst of Faces of Death came out in 1990. Faces of Death 4 came out in 1990 in Germany, but due to some sort of legal battle, I think it was something to do with the opera house scene at the end, which is a real scene of an opera house stage floor collapse, and you've probably seen it before if you watch like YouTube like horror stuff. Yeah, and then Faces of Death 4 got released everywhere on VHS in 91 officially. So you had these 5 films come out. As I said, Michael Carr refused. He'd already retired, you see. Faces of Death 3 was actually his last acting credit, and he'd retired, so he refused to come back for Part 4 and for the worst of. But instead you've got James Schwartz filling in as Dr. Flellis, and he was also in Faces of Death 3. He played the guy that's trying to jump off the building at one point. So after that you have a little break, and then in 95 and 96 we get Faces of Death 5 and Faces of Death 6. Both of these though are just compilations of the first 4 films. Again, they're directed by John Alan Schwartz, going under his pseudonym of Conan, what was it again? Conan Le Ciliere or something. Conan Le Ciliere, I think it is. Not sure why he decided to go under the pseudonym after releasing like 4 films with his name attached. That's including The Worst of Faces of Death. Yeah, so we got 2 compilations there. They're sort of unofficial as well, I guess. They didn't really have the backing that the other ones did. And it was an excuse of just trying to get the best bits from the first 4 films and releasing them in countries that had banned the films previously. It was just a way to try and get into the market, because obviously like things had changed over like 15 years, however long it was since the first one. So I think he was just trying again just to get it out there for other countries. Faces of Death 7 then came out, and this is just a re-edited version of another Mondo film called Death Scenes by Nick Borges, I don't know if I've said that right, and is hosted by Anton LaVey. So that was an unofficial Faces of Death 7. Then we got another Faces of Death 7, which is just a compilation of shock videos and gore films found online, and then somebody just did this again and released Faces of Death 8, and yeah, it's just more gore, more stuff that you'd find online, no narration, no through line or anything like that, just a bunch of death scenes put together and unofficially released online. So there we go, that's the 8 films that exist. Then in 2001, I think it was, there was rumours about a remake. As of 2024, filming has wrapped on this remake, just called Faces of Death, and it will star Barbie Ferrier, don't know if I've said that right, from Nope, Dacre Montgomery from Stranger Things, and Charlie XCX the musician, and apparently it's going to centre around a group of people finding snuff films on YouTube. I don't know, man. I think that sounds awful. Honestly, I think it sounds cheap and lazy and just a cash in on the name. But you know what? Morbid curiosity will strike and I will see it, especially if it gets a cinema release. If you're interested in hearing about my thoughts on that film when it does come out, let me know. Maybe I'll make a little review about it or something. But I don't think I'm going to be going into the other films in this series because they're either unofficial, nothing to do with the original people, or just compilations. So I think we can round it off there. That is the sort of little mini history on Faces of Death. Let's move on.
The water and the forces of darkness that called to her.
There was something suspicious going on all the time. You've seen strange cars come and go in all hours of the night. Different things happening. It just didn't seem regular for this neighborhood.
Okay, let's crack out the Goro Meter and check to see how much this fits into the Hard Gore series, shall we? So let's start with question 1. Any branding on the outside of the case? There is not, surprisingly. Not a mention of Hard Gore anywhere on the outside of this case, which is weird because the other ones do have it, even just like the little website at the bottom, but no, not this time. Number 2, any Hard Gore branding on the inside of the case? Though we don't get an inside of the case in this one. No catalogue or anything like that. Just a white, blank inner. So, no to that one as well. Number 3, any branding on the disc, physically or digitally. Physically we get the Hard Gore website, weirdly. Even though it's not on the case, it is on the disc. And digitally, it also gets a little weird. On the main menu, the icon for looking at the other trailers is a little screaming Hard Gore face. Clicking on that though, the menu for the trailers it doesn't have any of the Hard Gore branding, but we still get a little guy and we still get the website on the disc, so it gets a point for that one. Number 4, is it hard? Is it gore? Of course it is. We've already had the other 3 films in tier 1, so this is right at home. If this was just released as a Hard Gore film, I'd be much happier. It'd appease my brain a little better because I've got the other 3 in tier 1, you know. But oh well. So yeah, definitely it is hard and it is gore. Lastly, is there any other outside evidence? Now, you might think this is a stretch, but I am going to go with this. Yes, the fact that the case carries on the style of the other 3 and adds another body part and things like that. Excuse me. I think that is enough evidence, really, to say that it was part of that collection. Like, it could have had a completely different style, but it doesn't. It has exactly the same. So there's that, and also we have seen in catalogues this one mentioned, and it's usually put alongside the other 3 films, and the other 3 films then don't have the branding. So I don't know, it feels like a little set. So I'm going to give it a point for that anyway. So we are ending this this Goro Meter session with a 3 out of 5, meaning maybe Hard Gore. Honestly, I expected it to be a little higher, because I feel like it really does fit into the Hard Gore collection, but a lack of branding on the outside and inside, it does fall short in some ways. I honestly thought this was going to be the one that was the closest, but yeah, no, it misses out on a few things. It is pretty close, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it just misses the mark. I'd like to know what you think. This was a tricky one to grade, to be completely honest, as well, because it does just feel like it should be part of the Hard Gore collection. But yeah, it'd be nice to hear what you guys think about this one anyway.
My work with mental patients has convinced me that video games, pinball games, and controlled physical contact reduces aggression. The same theory does not hold true in a world gone mad. An unusually large leech had attached itself to Nancy's arm. the responding officer mistakenly thought cutting the creature would kill it.
Okay then, time for the print, and it's not good, to be honest. It might be one of the worst ones that we've looked at in Tier 2 so far, to be honest. It's 4x3 and it's blurry and very soft looking. We get VHS flickers every now and again, and the main issue is that every now and then it'll slow down and everything will get deep and slow, and then it'll jump back into speeding up and go really fast. Everyone's talking really high pitched. It feels like there's like a tracking issue. It's clearly a VHS strip. I think it was only really released on VHS. And I'm guessing, yeah, it's a tracking issue with the VHS player that they were using to rip the footage. Yeah, it's not great. And right at the end as well, something weird, is that the Gorgon Films advert plays right at the end. And that's the company that put this out in the States on DVD. And it's just got static noise in the background. And I mean, I'm a fan of Merzbow, so I didn't mind it. But I'm sure most people would just be quite annoyed if suddenly loud static noise is playing briefly. It just seems really weird and obnoxious. I don't know if they removed the audio and just put static in there. I'm not fully sure. It's weird either way. And on the disc, we just get the usual stuff, really, you know. We get the film, we get chapter select, and we get some trailers. That's your lot.
Across the street from us.
The man who ordered death like most of us order a
Sandwich is having a wonderful time at the party. Anybody who's got a window in their house saw a drug deal
Going down across the street there, right in front of the house. We saw it over and over.
Okay then, time for the case. Once again, it's sticking with the ever-growing face, and yeah, I've already said before, I really like it. I also like that they're all different colours as well. There's something nice to just differentiate between them all. And this one, it's a nice way to cap it off with the bottom jaw being added. It's a good job they didn't bother releasing 5 and 6, because they'd have had to keep adding to this face, and what you're doing next, ears and hair or something. But yeah, it's nice. The back of the case again lists off terrible things featured in the film, and while I do still like this style, it's unfortunately exactly the same list as the one on the back of Faces of Death 3. 1 to 3 they were all different, but I guess with this one they just said fuck it and just reused the last one that they had for it. Seems really lazy. Outside of that though, the runtime's correct, and yeah, it's not too bad a case, honestly. Overall then, it's another Faces of Death film. It's not the worst of the lot by any means, but it's not the best one either. To be honest, this series of films sort of started losing me after the first one, really. And yeah, it's never really picked back up that much for me. It's better than the third one. The third one was a little too slow and boring, whereas this one does manage to keep its pace, but it is going to sit behind the second one. Mainly because it's 90 minutes, which is a little too long for this sort of film for me, and the absence of Dr. Gross doesn't help things at all, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd only recommend this to Faces of Death completionists, and if that is you, you've probably already seen it, to be completely honest. But it's only really going to be for the ones who really want to tick them all off, basically. If you are in the market as well, this version's not great, but it looks like it's the Gorgon print, so if you're going to import the DVD, it's probably the exact same. If you are going to buy it, don't buy it as expensive as it currently is online. Try and find it cheap somewhere, because this has shot up in price. I think it's a bit of a rarity, to be honest. I think there's like some sort of weird bootleggy Blu-rays where it has all 4 films on one disc. That's probably your best way to go, because that is a cheaper option of getting all 4 of the films in one. But yeah, I don't know, I wouldn't particularly bother with it, really. It's not the best, anyway. So yeah, glad I got that one ticked off. Not the worst in the series, but not the best either. Next episode, we are heading back off abroad, this time to Thailand, for a little bit more action, I believe. Next episode, we're going to be checking out Bangkok Hell.